permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Welcome to episode 456 of Concede, our Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, July 18th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, Tyler Knife, and SSJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, Dr. Wiggs and Lacey Geiger. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and of course help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So Life and Ladder, we had a Theorycrafting. We got to finally play with the cards. I was casting the event once again, so I got to see kind of the whole range, and I had the sandwich shift, if you will, because I had the first 2 hours and the last 2 hours, and then I had a 4-hour break in between. And during that 4 hours, of course, I just played my own stuff. So anyone who was in that and played against Theorycast 4, that was me. I'm sorry. Tried a whole bunch of stuff, saw a whole bunch of stuff, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot of powerful things going on. I don't know. What struck the two of you?
I think we ought to put the disclaimer, given the Twitter discourse today. I think we should start with the disclaimer. We've done a lot of theory craftings at this point, both as participants and observers. And the thing that is broken on theory crafting day is very rarely the thing that is broken when, right? So I think we saw a lot of really powerful things. We saw a lot of lethality and very quick lethality. A number of OTK decks. Well, there was even an argument on Twitter what constitutes an OTK deck. I'm not even going into that right now. But there was a lot of dying from hand, and that may very well not be what we see on day one when we have decks that can run fewer than 10 cards from the new set in them. Like things like Odin Warrior and other decks that are maybe like a regular hand buff paladin that might be speed bumps for the format are not there. It's a very different meta and is not necessarily representative. But it does show you what's possible, right?
Well, and also, sometimes even when the deck that was big in theory crafting, we've had, the exception that comes to mind is Snake Warlock. But that was already, and that was like the big bugaboo in theory crafting. And then on day one, but it was, and then it was hot fixed. It was already starting to be countered at that point. I wasn't a huge fan of facing Snake Warlock. But the meta develops, right? And having some lethality in the format is hopefully part of how we don't have the sort of grind that we have right now. And also having card draw and card generation make sure that you always have options. You're not just running dry of cards. You're able to think about, what do I want to play? And I can play more than one thing because I have more than one card in my hand. I have things that wouldn't necessarily be in my deck before. There can be a point where that gets really frustrating, like Wishing Well Rogue for your opponent. But having some differences in the cards that you have can also be something that brings out a lot of skill and that is interesting to players. So I definitely, and I will admit, I also did enjoy Stormwind. But I don't think that it has to be Stormwind to see some benefit to a faster game. So I actually do hope it is faster. It also makes me understand to some extent why they felt a little worried that if the game was already as fast as it was at the beginning of Whizbang and then this was the next expansion coming out, what would happen? Although I wish that they hadn't slowed things down as much as they did in Whizbang. But yeah, so disclaimer, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. Things will adjust. There will always, even if it wasn't something in Theorycrafting, there will be something that is the enemy on day 1 and 2. And that is just, and then other things will happen, even if they don't patch it.
Though, while combo often looks very powerful and flashy on the Theorycrafting because people are playing new stuff, slow stuff, unrefined stuff, all these kind of things that take time. And so combo is the thing that stands out the most, and people find it really fun and enjoy Theorycrafting it. We saw something else that can kill you quickly that I think may temper some such combo decks, particularly the druids that I am always afraid of. And that's pirates. Like pirate, demon hunter, and pirate shaman, which gets to use all the demon hunter cards, are terrifying. Like, just the fact that those minions have charge, if they came out like a year or two ago, it would say rush, right? But they're doing charge again, and so the sigil summons 3 1/1 charge pirates. The location basically summons 4 because it's trivial to get 2 activations in a single turn. All you have to do is attack, which at least as a demon hunter is not challenging. And there are so many ways now to utilize multiple instances of those pirates. And of course, the patches, if you get it on 1 and randomly draw those can accelerate you as well. So with those chargers, plus South Sea Captain is actually the worst one, right? Where it's just this aura that gives them +1/+1, but if you kill the captain, they go back down again. The Hosen, whatever it's called, that the animation is great. It literally tosses a banana at them when they attack, but it's whenever a pirate you control attacks, give it +1/+1. That's very powerful, and in that case, 1, it's a 2/4, so it's a little harder to kill than the South Sea Captain, and 2, if it dies, they're still buffed. There's still a bunch of 2/2s.
And they still got health, too, so you have to put twice as much to kill them. And
then you've also got less good, but still can be powerful. There's this 1/4 pirate that whenever an adjacent minion attacks, it like fires a cannonball. So that's a way of adding a little bit extra damage. You've got Treasure Distributor, the 1 mana 1/2 that says this is a little trickier to make happen, but if it sticks, if you go Treasure Distributor into Sigil, then on turn 3 you're summoning them as 2/1 pirates instead of 1/1s.
Yeah, we did have that happen.
Too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Ziliax, right? If you're able to get Ziliax down for the +1/+1. So there's just so many ways of utilizing those tokens. Shaman has the advantage of, less a pirate thing, but if you do have to trade those tokens in, Cookie can turn them into 2-drops, which is totally fine if you have, nothing else relating to evolve in the deck, just so that you get extra value out of having to make some trades. And then Shaman has the extra potential of you play the sand something elemental.
Sand Dart Elemental. Yeah.
Sand Dart Elemental gives you Wind Fury. And of course the mini, just 1 mana, getting Wind Fury on your hero to combine with any number of Demon Hunter cards that give yourself attack means that you can do the original hand buff paladin thing of, okay, Wind Fury, kill you.
And I mean, there's other things that seemed like Amalgam Hunters seemed relatively fast, or not quite pirates fast, but fast enough to start challenging something that's OTKing. Like it always surprised me, like how quickly. Not so much in the priest. Like we tried it in priest and it was fine because we thought, oh yeah, we'll just get like Crimson Clergy and whatever. But like when Hunter just has a lot of things that can hand buff, and all of a sudden that thing is like a 9/4 on like turn 2 or 3, and then you kill it, and then the the weapon comes back out, and it's like, okay, well, this is the only one drop in the deck, so here it is again. Deal with it again. Like there was one hunter we were playing with that played 2, and one was like a 9 something, and one was a 5/4. And Magace was like, well, let's clear both of them. I'm like, no, let's just clear the small one because we only want the small one to come back from the weapon, and we can freeze the big one. But it's just like it just keeps coming back, and it's impossible to kill unless you have silence, which doesn't really exist anymore. So
Yeah,
I'll be interested to see how prevalent that actually is live, or if that just needs too many turns to get going. Because usually like couple muscling like turn 1 or and 2 in order to get it buffed up or whatever. So there is some setup, and a pirate deck can just punch you in the face while you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, and there's, there are a lot of things that you can do aggressive with Hunter. I'm trying to find, there was a just sort of a like concierge cup of muscle direction. Drink server has like a 50% chance if you're a hunter to give you a 1 mana drink, which is free with concierge. You got mantle shaper. You buff things in your hand. Tide pool people can bring it back. This is not even running amalgam, so that I can be running things like tide pool people and miracle salesman. I guess it's just really going for mantle shapers.
It's going to annoy me, and I'm going to get very tired of it quickly, but I do find it flavor-wise amazing that the frequently best use case with concierge is to make a drink free.
Yes.
So you can, just hand out all the drinks.
Complimentary drinks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. It makes me sad that mage is like the only one that I want to do it with, and the one that I'm not going to be able to do it with. I have to be druid if I want to use that drink. It makes me really sad. We can use service ace to discount Sif, but it's just not the same.
And you do have divine brew. Yeah, you can use divine concierge service ace divine brews to discount your Sif. And I do hope that we can play that Rayla mage paladin deck.
Rayla mage was fun.
Rayla's amazing.
Because Rayla's incredible. When you get that board, it's just insane. And you could throw Sif into basically an aggressive small spell mage, and then just like, if you clear all my stuff, then I have Sif.
I think that might end up being the direction, that it's just like, okay, rather than we're on this sort of full combo deal of I'm going to draw cards and buy time and sort of just wait until I assemble the damage. It could just be I'm running these things that are going to be pressuring you, and that makes it all the easier to finish you off with, a Sif Molten Rune or something.
Plus, you can just like go with the flow and put it on a Divine Shield minion. Say, okay, deal with this. Because otherwise I'm going to be throwing a whole bunch of burn at your face, and I don't need Sif. I mean, obviously you would rather have Sif because that's going to be bigger, but you can get a lot of chip damage to help the Sif not have to do as much later. Which means that you can play the Sif earlier.
Yeah.
And having Divine Shield on a minion at command, I mean, we played this Paladin that World 8 made, which was probably kind of a ode to Naga Priest of old, using the sunscreens instead of wigs. And so, of course, it was like my favorite thing.
It was pretty good, though. We had good results with it.
We did have good results.
You had no idea what to do with it. And it was just like, oh, yeah, this is actually pretty good.
It had, you give Divine Shield to whatever you want to live. You have Sandcastle, which is insane. You have Sea Shanty, which gets discounted immediately. We didn't even, draw Linessa, who was also crazy. But, we didn't even need Linessa.
So, and Sea Shanty, we should point out, because this is a card that got overlooked a lot, and I don't even it's still getting overlooked because it's not in any of our superlatives, but it's 10 mana. It summons 3/5/5 pirates, but it gets discounted by 1 for every spell you've cast on your minions.
For every spell that targets a character, so mage or anything else that's targeting an enemy, still counts.
Or yourself, right?
Or yourself.
If you
yeah.
Divine brew your own face a few times.
Yeah. So I mean, you're just you just get it free really, really quickly. And Sandcastle, I will also point out, that was my one contribution to the deck, because I don't remember what World 8 took out. But I'm like, I don't know what to put in, but I want to play Sandcastle, so we're just going to throw it in. That card is bonkers when it goes off.
We'll get to that one later because it's in your superlatives.
Yes.
I was like starting to type it, and then I saw you already had it, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
it's covered.
One time we're on the same wavelength when deck building is concerned, but yeah.
I actually almost put Sea Shanty, but I decided to put Divine Brew instead. But they kind of are of a piece, right? The Divine Brew, the Sea Shanty, and also the Life-Saving Aura, perhaps to a lesser extent. But you can just get a lot of big stuff. We were talking about like what else might be able to throw into that deck, whether you want like a Rushing Tigress plushie. It's missing Ziliax for some reason, so we probably want Ziliax. But you can just get some big stuff on the board. Of course, Handbuff Paladin is also thrilled to have Sandcastle. I don't know if it even does anything else. It's just like, because Sandcastle is the one that's a 3/8 rusher, and then it turns into a location that gives a minion +3 attack and rush. Or if the Sandcastle had more attack when it turned into a location, then that increases the buff from the location also. So if you got it that way through a Divine Brew or through a Sunscreen or because you hand buffed it because you're a paladin or whatever, it will give increased buff to whatever else goes. And it will give rush. All of that is insane.
In Handbuff Paladin, that doesn't matter because you're giving the attack to something that already has charge, probably. like you're going to attack into something, clear a giant minion because you've hand buffed it, and then just let it sit there for a location until the following turn when you play your Leroy and an Outfit Tailor for good measure, and then you just kill somebody. 30. Yeah. I mean, we also I threw together an Automaton Priest that I had no expectations for and actually felt like it did well. Again, I do not expect that to be able to do anything on day one, but it might. I mean, we've had Automaton Priests be reasonable in some metas, and it feels like it got enough support to really be able to keep up with some of the faster stuff that was happening. I don't feel like we were just beating up on like OTKs. It felt like we were, competitive on board and kind of keeping pace.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be like just automatons, but certainly them as a thing. And then you also have stuff like Catch of the Day, just good stuff to pull out with that weapon. Language Hacker and No Hands. A couple of times I saw them playing, some kind of aggro priest doing that sort of stuff. And it can have those crazy openers, right? Where they do a bunch of stuff, play out their entire hand, and then happen to Power of Creation into Thirsty Drifter, and you're like, great, well, I could have dealt with this, and now there's 2 Thirsty Drifters on top of it all.
Yeah, I cannot quite figure out what the direction for the 1-drop priest is going to end up being. Because there's clearly a 1-drop priest, right? And you can get clergy more consistently with the weapon, but unless we did see someone who was doing like a slow, kind of like the homie overheal priest that we've had at the end of this expansion, where it's really kind of a slower deck that has Hauler and Clergy and Puppet Theater and Hedonis. This one, I don't know if it had Puppet Theater, but it was like a slow building toward Hedonis or just kill everything you have every turn forever with Hauler. That one was like all in on finding Clergy, which you have to be if that's your only draw. I feel like we have something, though, that's more... We have more 1-drops. We have Catch of the Day. We have maybe Brain Masseuse. It's... Maybe we have Automaton just in case we happen to copy it, but I'm not quite sure exactly what we're doing. We might even be doing like Carry On Grub because it's draw. Like if you don't consistently get the Clergy, it's draw and it's a 1-drop, technically, the spell.
I mean, if you want to consistently get the Clergy now, you can, right? Like you can go... Was it Instrument Tech for the weapon for the Clergy, right? Like you go Instrument Tech on 2, set up the weapon on 3, don't swing, Clergy's your only 1-drop, and that's just like so many cards to help. Like yes, it's some dead cards, but it just helps you guarantee that Clergy. So if you're trying to be all in on Clergy combo draw, I think you can do that now.
And that might be something that we're doing. I mean, that certainly was what I think we were looking at. And because you always get it, then you don't care so much that you have a dead draw of another Instrument Tech later because you're drawing forever with Clergy. You make sure that you draw forever with that Clergy. And plus you have another swing with your weapon. So you probably don't care. But what I'm really interested in, of course, as the aggro police player, is what are we doing with there's actually sort of so many synergies that it's hard to know which one to do, and how do we survive if we don't get that perfect opener. Because you can get like the perfect opener. John Bray had one in one of the sort of like highlight videos that came out before, where he just had like an insane Thirsty Drifter Clergy Funnel Cake catch of the day summoned from the weapon opener that no one could ever do anything about. I think also like a Dreamboat on that. I think Dreamboat's actually good for that, because you need extra healing for Clergy if you do get it, and it becomes big if you have all your 1-drops down.
Yeah.
But if you don't get that opener, as I know from playing Zarimi, you need a plan B.
and especially in this meta, where if you don't have that opener, you just die, right? Like, then yeah.
Well, in World 8, I don't know if this is kind of joking, but mentioning in chat that there's Pirate Priest, and Ship's Trojan is a dragon, but it's also a pirate. The new Brain Masseuse is an undead, but it's also a pirate, a 1-mana 2/4. And, you've got the Amalgam, of course, which is everything. You could run the same neutral pirate buffers, right? Hosen, South Sea, of course, Ziliax is in every kind of, buffing wideboard stuff deck. So
it's not quite as good when you have to summon them one at a time manually. That's the thing. You actually have to pull them out of your hand. It's not quite as good.
The Amalgam is interesting, though, because it would keep all those pirate buffs. And that, I think, works better than... we did try a sort of Amalgam Zarimi Priest to try to see whether that's something that'll work, to summon that, to get your 8 by, like, summoning your Amalgams over and over. I think we suffered some from draw, and also the Clay Matriarch, missing the Clay Matriarch. Of course, we had this problem of, like, 10 Theorycrafting, 10 cards from the new set is hard for Zarimi. I think Zarimi, you just plug in Gorgon Zormu and say done.
Yeah.
Maybe Acupuncture, but like...
I mean, maybe you run Amalgam in there anyway, because you do like...
No, you do not want to be drawing 1-drops late. You do not want to be drawing 1-drops. Like,
well, if they're big 1-drops, then you might be okay with it.
You have nothing to buff it. You have literally nothing to buff it except for Synchronize, and you don't want more of them.
Well, or the gift wrap. Well, but yeah, it's pretty fringe. I think that you can run, I mean, maybe one, but I think you can run the weapon, again, because you don't want to draw the 1-drops late. You could run the weapon just to pull them out, right? Maybe that's just too slow. But
it is draw for Priest, right? We don't look gift horses in the mouth right now.
Well, but particularly because the Zarimi says summon, not play,
yes,
right?
Not play.
Pulling them out with the fishing rod still counts as playing a dragon.
Yeah, it might be worth it if we can find room in the list. But, if you were a Zarimi Priest fan, which I know is not that many of you, although probably all of them are Concede listeners, or most of them. So if that's you, and you don't want to learn a new deck on day one, you can probably just throw in Gorgon Zormu and call it a day if you happen to open.
Yeah.
Gorgon Zormu.
Take out the thing that got nerfed to 3 so that it can't be shadow stepped anymore.
Yeah, I already took out
the Celestial Projectionist. Yeah,
Celestial Projectionist. But if you haven't done that, definitely take out one of those. Otherwise, you can take out like a Starlight Whelp.
Yeah,
because it's also
Gorgon
a dragon.
Zormu on curve in that deck is filthy. It's just I did that a couple of times, and it is just. You have this cheese that on 7 is going to summon 5-drops, and you play it, you play as Zarimi, and they die. It's
and I will tell you, as the opponent, that stinks.
Yeah, well,
should have just killed him.
Yeah. I even had one where I had to wait longer. I forget if I just couldn't find the Zarimi or whatever. Yeah, I couldn't find the Zarimi. I was against a warrior, so they were slower, and I kept crossing my fingers every time they got multiple. I think Hydration Station revived twice the tourist into druid that eats stuff out of your deck, so they were eating minions out of my deck, but they didn't hit the Zarimi. And then I found it and was like, okay, 3 10-drops Zarimi. Bye.
Should have ate around it.
Yeah,
we did have one game, so. We haven't mentioned the Paladin. We sort of talked around the Paladin OTK. We didn't really go into this. We had been talking about that with deckhands, but it turns out you don't necessarily even need deckhands. So you play Lanessa, you play like coins that you've gathered throughout the game from O Manager, Greedy Partner, stuff like that. Then you play...
And each coin gives you 2 mana with Lanessa out, by the way.
Each coin gives you 2 mana. O Manager does 4 damage with Lanessa out and gives you a coin to pay for itself. Holy Glow Sticks, 2 coins to pay for itself.
Yeah, it nets you mana.
It nets you 2 mana. If you play any Holy Spell, then now your Holy Glow Sticks costs 1 and does 8.
Yep.
You run Hammer of Wrath, which will draw you 2 cards also. So
well, only if you can discount it, right? Hammer of Wrath
costs 3. Yeah. But you can still do that, or you can do like Divine Brew on your face.
Yeah. And I think the Divine Brew, like if it's the first one, then it casts twice and you also get multiples of the 2 drinks left.
Yeah, so you have like 7. Yeah, that's a lot.
A little silly. Fortunately, no, Concierge won't work to discount that, but yeah, it's pretty silly. And oftentimes, really all that matters is like you have an O Manager, you've got a Holy Glow Sticks, and you play this 1 mana 2/1 Naga that's going to be very prevalent. That says if you've cast 3 spells while holding this, you discover one of them to get back. So it's sort of like a mini of that mage legendary, Savara.
Yeah. Savara.
Because instead of just getting all 3 of them, you pick one. And that might be better a lot of the time, because it's just 1 mana. So you just pick Holy Glow Sticks, and that's another 8 damage. Or if you need to generate more mana, you pick the O Manager, and then you get 4 damage and 2 coins. So it pops off very well. I don't know about the 3 mana 2/2 weapon where you have to like hit something and kill it to get the coins, because a 3 mana 2/2 weapon is pretty crap, but getting coins is powerful in that deck. It's kind of a trade-off. I was experimenting with like Mixologists and Grifta because the high rolls are very high.
I mean, deal 6 damage twice is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And deal 3 damage twice is good, right? If you get like a deal 3 draw card, that's probably the perfect one for comboing off. And also, since you don't necessarily have a lot of AoE things, maybe you go Mixologist to try and get the 2 damage to all minions to bail you out against a pirate deck. Like, Mixologist didn't see as much play as I was expecting for how powerful it felt to me.
Yeah, it felt good.
Yeah, that should have been my underrated card.
Yeah. And by the way, I first experienced the OTK Paladin deck by being in Storm Rage's stream, where he decided he was just going to try to play it without looking at the list first.
Oh, no.
So that we all had to kind of collectively help him figure out what the OTK was. That was delightful. But yeah, we had a game against one where we had played a Scarab keychain on 1 and discovered a Dirty Rat from that. And the good thing about the Paladin OTK is that they telegraph what they're going to do, because they usually play Grillmaster, which is I think it's cost 4. It's got Battlecry, draw your cheapest card, and Death Rattle, draw your highest cost card. Their highest cost card is always Lanessa, which without, the combo does not happen. And so we just waited for them to kill that off, and like, okay, Dirty Rat, something to kill Lanessa, your turn. And then the game went on for a couple more turns, because you're not allowed to concede during Theorycrafting. But if that was ladder, that game would have ended immediately. That would have been a lethal Dirty Rat.
Yeah.
We waited until we thought we had the most, like we waited an extra turn, I think, even, because we were like, play out more of your minions, and we'll really have a good shot at this. But I'm sure it was still like at least, I mean, the fact that we found the Dirty Rat at all was quite lucky. And then the fact that we hit it, I'm sure, was also lucky. So we were playing a big spell mage, so there was just like no shot, right?
That
was our win con. That was it. You had no chance otherwise.
Yeah, it is a glass cannon kind of deck. But I think we've talked plenty about the theory crafting, and we do have a little bit of news to jump into. Some patch notes, briefly recap. Some finals of Concede listener series, and then we will do our tradition of card superlatives.
So let's do that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So we have a new expansion. So we have a new patch, and that patch is 30.0. So this is the 30th set, which is something. Also, we have the 30th anniversary, or the 10-year anniversary. Now we have the 30th set with roughly three sets a year. So the math checks out. Obviously, Perils in Paradise is now live in the client. That will release on Tuesday. That's when you can open your packs, but you obviously can buy them or, get a bundle code otherwise beforehand. We had Theorycrafting. There's an announcement about Theorycrafting. There's also going to be Community Day this coming weekend on from July 17th at 9 a.m. through July 18th at 9 a.m. So that was for Theorycrafting. I'm sorry. Community Day is going to be July 19th, which is Friday through at 9 a.m. Pacific through July 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific. So that's Friday through Sunday. So it's a 2-day, it's Community 2-day, I guess. And any stream that has drops enabled will allow you to get additional packs just for watching. And
up to 10, which is a lot.
Up to 10, which is a lot of packs, yeah. And for the first time, the creators who were featured in the videos that were coming out as reveal season were going on also have their decks in the game. So there are actual, like normally the recipe decks are just whatever the community team puts together or the developers put together as kind of exhibiting the decks. But this time there were some creators who put those decks together. So they're a little bit different. I know Language Hacker had a Thief Rogue. I still like him despite that.
Dare I say, they might be a little bit better too.
Yeah, they probably are because, they're going in with different goals. They're going in, still showcasing the mechanics of the set, but going in not just like, here's an underpowered version, but hey, here's something that's cool to do that you can do. So probably worth checking those out if you don't know what else to play on day one.
The team already had Board Control and Gallon, but I don't know if they were the ones making the decks before.
Yeah.
Having people like John Bray, Baby Bear, and Language Hacker making decks, that's serious business.
I don't know about the John Bray one. Usually playing a John Bray deck on day one is not a recipe for success unless you're John Bray. But
These were also, those were some great videos. There's also on Day 9's channel, he has a video of outtakes that they didn't use in the actual ones that he had with Raren, and they feature Hat trying to keep Day 9 on track.
Which you could imagine how entertaining that is, right?
So it's a very good video. All of them definitely worth watching. But yes, they just call Hat producer on it, but you can definitely recognize his voice if you are a longtime Concede listener, which, by the way, I realized that today is my 1-year anniversary of being on the show. So I'm very excited. That was thank you. So I was going to say that on Life and Ladder, and then I completely forgot. But
yeah, that's because when you joined the show last year, it was right in the middle of Titans reveal season, and we had to repeatedly assure you that it is not always this hectic.
Yeah, I was in the middle of transitioning to different students at work and starting a new grad school class, and then it was reveal season, and I was like, it's all very exciting, and then I don't even know how my podcast recording equipment works, so I have to figure that out. So this is actually a lot more chill, even though there's definitely still the expansion crunch. But anyway, I interrupted the news.
Yeah, so we also had a couple of changes to standard that were kind of unexpected in this patch. One of them is that Splish Splash Whelp is back. For better or worse. He's gone from a 2-mana 1/1 to a 3-mana 3/2, and it is now eligible for a dust refund for 2 weeks following this patch. I've seen more druids lately. They've seemed worse, but they're still druids. So, if that's something that you dislike, you may not be happy about that. If you enjoyed playing druid, then, you can do that with a slightly worse Splish Splash Whelp, it does mess the curve up a little bit more. It's going to be hard to go, coin Splish Splash into Splish Splash into Doomkin like you could before, but it's still fine, right? And Druid, even without it, was so. Yeah, and also there's an update to the core set where because there are so many new locations, they're adding Demolition Renovator back into core. If you've forgotten because you've never seen it played, Demolition Renovator is a 3-mana 3/3 with tradable that says Battle Cry, destroy an enemy. There are some locations that you may want to destroy. They also may have been played and used up by the time that you get to play the Demolition Renovator. So I don't know how useful that will be, but that's a thing that you can do if you are not liking the location. There will be an in-game event for Perils in Paradise. It's going to start on July 30th and run until August 20th. You can do event quests to earn event XP, and you'll be able to get 6 Perils in Paradise packs, even though the graphic says they're Whizbang's Workshop packs. They will be Perils in Paradise packs. And an Ice Cream Side Death Knight hero skin. So I assume that he got his ice cream at the Lich King's Ice Cream Citadel, but we will just have to leave that up to the lore fiends to figure out for us. Battlegrounds has one very small update that they added. They added back a tavern spell called Buddy Up, which is a tier 5, 3 gold spell that says discover a buddy. Given that buddies are in, may as well. We heard you like buddies, so we put buddies in your buddies. So that's there for Battlegrounds. That's the only major change. Battlegrounds will be getting a major shake up in patch 30.2, which is about a month out. That's when their season rolls over. Arena is going away from, at least for this cycle, is going away from the curated pool and back to full expansions. You're still going to be offered one legendary card at the beginning as the first card of your draft. And for this season, class cards will appear about twice as often as before. And the sets that are eligible for Arena are just everything that's legal and standard right now. Core, Festival of Legends, Titans, Showdown the Badlands, Whizbang's Workshop, and Perils. That is available now. So if you are listening to this before the expansion has released and you want to play with the new cards, go to Arena. This is the most fun time to play Arena because nobody knows what how to get the most out of the cards. And I will be streaming for Community Day tomorrow, and that is probably what I'm going to do because I am still not at Legend, much to my chagrin, and I don't think anybody wants to watch me try at this point. I think I could do that in the privacy of my home, but Arena will be much more fun for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and the dual class definitely fun, and they said class cards, with the more class cards, the dual class that's in Arena, that should be worth playing. That'll probably be what I play between now and then as well.
Yeah. And also there's I thought this was out already, but I guess it wasn't actually released. The Hearthstone Music of the Tavern Volume 1 is live with patch 30.0. It's got 50 tracks, all of the in-game sounds, none of the trailer music, unfortunately. There's apparently licensing concerns, but so you're not going to be able to get that banger from the Voyage to the Sunken City trailer, unfortunately. But all of the in-game themes are in there. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, which is kind of the same thing, YouTube, and Deezer, which is I just learned is a service that you can listen to music on. Because I am a boomer apparently. So
it is actually nice focus music, I found, because I'm used to focusing on the game while I'm listening to it and just like zoning while I'm hearing it. So it actually works well for that, at least for me.
It is a little bit disconcerting if you're listening to it while playing Hearthstone, because I had that on as the background music while we were streaming, and then there were some things that kind of popped up as like notes in the game in the sound music that mean that something's happening, and I'm looking around the board and nothing's happening. So you may want to do that when you're not playing Hearthstone, but if you're playing Hearthstone, just use the game sound. That's better. There are a lot of bug fixes and game improvements in the patch notes. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to cover most of it. You can go read through that in with the link to the patch notes will be in the show notes. There are a couple that are significant that we do want to cover, though. One is that there is that temporary's been made into a keyword, meaning that this card will be discarded at the end of your turn. So it's not really going to affect any functionality. It's a text only change, but that'll mean that anything that behaves that way will read consistently, and temporary will mean the same thing going forward. Which is nice because I am often the one complaining about things using different terms for flavor reasons. You have things that eat things. Well, I'm not going to go there. But that's at least something. At least whenever we can make the text more consistent, it's a good thing. There's some other minor bug fixes around the specific interactions, like Sandbox Scoundrel's cost reduction persisted if the reduced card was countered. That's probably the most significant one. So if you play a Sandbox Scoundrel into a counterspell, you would still get the cost reduction before. You no longer will. So that's something important if you are playing Excavate Rogue. That's something important to note. They fixed a bug where Galactic Projection Orb could pick itself for the 10 mana spell, but then be blocked from resolving it. So there was no 10 mana spell going off. I don't know how many other 10 mana spells we have in Mage right now. So I don't know how it used to be Sunset Volley and it's not anymore. So I don't know if there are others, but that's something that could become more
Sea Shanty
relevant.
now.
I guess you can get Sea Shanty. So that is relevant now and that it wasn't before. And there are a bunch of other fixes, some cosmetic changes with Ulfar and Blood Queen Lanathel's hero powers. There were some mobile devices that would have crashes when you use the in-game chat. You can go read through all the rest of the bug fixes and see those for yourself if there's anything that you are particularly concerned about. The one thing that is not fixed in this bug are the Mac OS screen changing, window changing crashes. Those still are there. That's taking a little bit longer to resolve. They're hoping to get that into a future, but that is not fixed in this patch if you were hoping it was, like I am, because I am very tired of having to scroll my window over to see what's in my dock, because I keep my dock on the right side of my screen and not in the bottom, because I am a gentleman.
Me too.
So yeah, so that's the thing. We did have some comments from Cora about the theming of the classes, which wasn't really clear from any of the promotional material. So I don't think we can read all this out. There's some interesting thoughts about what basically the idea is, what would these classes do if they got to take a vacation, right? So that's where you get the thrill seeking from Demon Hunter. You get the the all you can eat buffet from Warrior. You can go read what the justifications were. It's a fun thread. It's worth taking the time to look through that.
Yeah, Rogue is scamming people in the vendor section. Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand how that's vacation, because every time I play against a rogue, I'm getting scammed. So I don't see how that's any different from their normal day-to-day life. But that's there's also an interview with Tyler Bierman, who's the Hearthstone director, and executive producer Nathan Lyon-Smith about Perils in Paradise, who's on Game Rant. Megay, so you put this into the doc. Is there anything that jumped out at you from this interview?
Yeah, so there was a couple things about sort of the development process for the expansion. One was that originally they had been doing a lot of internal feedback on what did people think would be a cool theme for the set, and they had pirates. But then they found that they were having trouble having that be big enough for an expansion in terms of flavor, in terms of mechanics, everything, to have it just be pirate themed. And so they broadened that to Vacation run by pirates. And they also talked some about where the tourist mechanic came from. They were looking for dual class decks that weren't just from dual class cards, because dual class cards have to be a single card that combines a little bit of each class, not too much in it. And they were like, what if you could really tap into another class, their cards? And originally, some of the tourist mechanics allowed you to tap into everything. And they quickly realized that was insane and impossible to balance. So then they had tourists that allowed you to tap into limited pools, but of multiple classes. And then they're like, no, this is still insane and impossible to balance and less direction. So they ended up with the sort of chain of classes. But that made for some really interesting design space where they wanted to try to make class pairings that worked, but were unexpected. So things like Paladin and Rogue going together. Some of them, like Druid and Warrior being together is a little bit more expected, but others of them less so. And I think they overall, I would agree, they did a good job for almost all of them. At least having something that like I was interested to build, right? How do we put these two classes together? So they said they were really excited about the extra possibilities for deck making. And they talked a little bit about the way that they do internal crowdsourcing of like card names and flavor text, which we've heard about before, I think. But like everyone on the team can vote on and suggest like names and flavor text for cards, which is part of why we get such banger flavor text. If you've never gone into the library and just looked at the flavor text. And they talked a little bit about their decisions on the marketing videos, and they wanted to try something a bit different rather than the cinematic, doing like the flight safety video and the videos with John Bray, Baby Bear, Language Hacker, Housewife, Raren, and Day 9 that they did. So it's worth taking a quick look. Not a very long article. We have that link in the show notes as well.
And then two kind of small news items before we get over to tournaments quickly. One is that there is no new game board in this expansion. There's going to be some sort of an announcement coming next week about with some reasoning and explaining what that means for the game going forward. I don't think we really need to get into that whole discussion. There's been more discourse. If you really want to see what people are thinking, you can feel free to go to Reddit or Twitter. You will find out very quickly. And then you'll probably throw your laptop across the room if we're not already invested in this argument one way or the other. I don't think we really need to get into it other than, marking that it is definitely something that is unexpected and something that people expect, and it's not there. And that's always going to make people either upset or anxious or disappointed. And those feelings are valid. And we'll find out more next week.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about it when depending on what they say. I mean, no matter what, we'll talk about it because I'm sure a lot of that is going to be frustrating corporate speak. But largely, my feelings are similar to those of what were expressed on Blizzlet in terms that we can't say on this show because of the rules that we set for ourselves. But it's really unfortunate. The sort of music videos they do are always fun, and the boards are always fun, and if it turns out that they're just not going to do those anymore for budget reasons, that's a loss. It's really unfortunate.
I would definitely say especially the boards. I mean, we'll have to see what they say is actually their plan going forward. But, the board is something that you see very frequently every time that you're playing. So, although I will also say there was, things on Reddit must be bad if Zeddy is saying everyone calm down on Twitter, which she did. In actually what I thought was a nice post. It happens from time to time. So if you don't want to go to Reddit, you can probably infer what's there and then you don't need to go. If you do want to go to Reddit, and you will have company complaining if that's what you want to do.
And we have one other last piece of news, which is that PocketTrain has announced that he is retiring from streaming, which is, it's sad because, obviously PocketTrain is a very fun streamer to watch, and he's been on the show. He's just a great human being in general. But also I would expect that I'm playing Hearthstone for as many hours a day as he has, both for competitive reasons and then just streaming reasons. Like, that's hard to keep up for that long. So he's got something else on the horizon, and maybe he's joining the Hearthstone team. I don't know. That's usually what happens when a big streamer stops streaming suddenly. All of a sudden, we hear in 2 or 3 weeks that they started on the Hearthstone team. But I don't know anything. I'm just joking. But whatever he's up to, wish him all the best. And if it's even if it's just a break, like, hope he enjoys the break.
Yeah,
gets the rest out of it.
Absolutely. I'm glad that he's doing what he needs to do for himself, even though it's a loss for the Hearthstone community. But he's not going anywhere. Just having a different relationship with the game, which is probably healthy after the amount of hours he put in, just like the entire year last year.
Yep.
So, and speaking of competitive play, we can go and talk about the finals of the Concede Listener League before we get into talking about cards.
It's the grand tournament!
All right. On to our manufactured tournaments section that we put together in-house because there's not enough actually ones happening. So the finals of SSJ5 Goku versus World 8. Sorry. Yeah, there were two of them. SSJ5 Goku won the finals of the Concede Listener Series last Thursday, which was streamed after the live show in tight 2-1 series. Remember, it was best of 3, not 5, so 2-1's the whole thing. Lineups, if you recall, World 8 on Pirate Cycle Rogue, Insanity Warlock, Hand Buff Paladin, which was banned, and then SSJ5 Goku on Hand Buff Paladin, Excavate Rogue, and Rainbow Excavate DK, which was banned. Game 1, SSJ5 Goku maximized pressure with Hand Buff Paladin, including even holding the weapon back a turn for more immediate pressure. And meanwhile, the Playhouse Giants hid very impressively from World 8 the entire game, kind of what the deck is designed for. And then Sonya just wasn't nearly enough by herself. So, yeah, that deck sometimes, the draws will get you. Game 2, despite a ton of drawing, Playhouse Giants still hid from World 8 until the rope was burning on turn 7. And at that point, Goku was able to deal with almost all the Giants 2 turns in a row, but one lived. And at that point, World 8 had gotten enough chip damage to find lethal with the Survivor and Sonya shenanigans. Then Game 3, Goku was able to keep World 8's Insanity Warlock off the board and counter pressure, and World 8 ended up using a lot of resources to clear and was unable to find lethal damage after spending those resources. Red, the crescendos were spent to clear and could not be used for lethal.
Basically. Yes.
So, yeah, if you're curious about how that all panned out, you can go check out our VOD from last week. So you can take a look at those games. But without further ado, we have our card superlatives to take care of, and maybe we can even come in under 2 hours.
Well, 2 hours of recorded time, at least.
Yes.
All right, well, if you've been a listener for a while, you know the drill. So we have 5 categories of cards: card you can't wait to play with, card you're scared of, card you want to be good but isn't, card you think is over or underrated, although we always pick underrated because we already had card you want to be good but isn't, and then card you don't understand. So what we'll be doing is we've each have picked a card for this. We'll say what it is, talk about why. Some of them we already talked about a bit. And we'll also note what we picked last time, which was from the mini set, and see how our choices stacked up with how the meta actually turned out. So we will start with card you can't wait to play with, and I have picked Divine Brew in both Paladin and Mage. I'm just excited for the Rayla Mage. I'm excited for any sort of aggressive Paladin. I picked Divine Brew because it's, while I'm, you're still playing it in the OTK Paladin, it also is perhaps more important in like the type of swarmy sunscreen Paladin that we were talking about at the top of the show, and that being me is what I am especially excited about, although you can be sure I'll try all of it. And in Mage, I loved Tide Pools, actually. I almost put Tide Pools, but then I thought Divine Brew covered more of what I'm excited about. That the Tide Pools just like discovers so many spells for you. It's like all in a turn. It's better than Infinitize Lamaxitude in a certain way because of that. And they're not discounted, but you didn't have to discover them one at a time for the next turn. And just the amount of small things that you can do in Mage is also really fun. And then having like minions in Mage while you're still playing spells is fun. So I am excited for all of it. And I'm glad that Paladin is getting some interest from people, and that they're, because I love sort of minion swarmy decks, but they're actually making it with more, in this case, more roguey, like playing a lot of cards, or before, like comeback and lifesteal, like finding things that make the class a little bit more dynamic is always something that I'm going to be a fan of. So, yeah.
I'm curious, like, how that mage deck is ultimately gonna pan out, because it is legendary that in Rayla that has that insane mid-game pop-off. So I wonder if you would go so far as to run something like a concierge to be like, if you don't kill this concierge on 3, then I can Rayla with just all my sunscreens and Divine Brew shenanigans and fill my board with Divine Shields. Or if you're just like, okay, nice as that is, it's still a legendary, and so, you know, it's not worth running concierge for that. But Divine Brew, and honestly, all the drinks felt quite powerful in their own circumstances.
Maybe less so the priest one, but yeah, the priest one felt okay. But
The priest one is by its nature sort of more niche utilitarian, right? Like, you have to have something worth killing. You know, it is great value. I do wonder if it had to be 2 damage, if it could have been like you take 1 damage, but
yeah,
it deals 3.
They might have room to buff it, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, but the drinks in general, and the one thing that I almost put for underrated, although I think I've been seeing more people rating it more highly today, was the drink server, which I definitely, when that was announced, I was like, yeah, this is the tutorial card that just like tells you about the thing that they have to include. But actually, there's a lot of really good drinks that are really cheap. And if you're already running concierge, then it can make sense, because a lot of them are 1 mana, or at most, well, there is the health drink that's 3 mana, but most of them are 2 or less, and usually 1. So, and they're mostly decent. So that actually is a much more reasonable choice of card than I initially thought it would be.
Yeah, and potentially a good way of getting stuff from another class, if that's like a thing you're trying to do.
What class would possibly be trying to do that?
Come on, let's not go there yet.
All right, well, Edel, what is the card that you can't wait to play with?
So I struggled a little bit with this one, actually, to pick, because I am excited about Rayla, I am excited about Linessa. There's actually a lot of the tourist cards that, in addition to the tourist effect, which is going to make them see play, just have really cool card texts, right, in terms of the stuff they do. But in terms of what I can play in anything, it's got to be Incendious. This is exactly my type of card, where you just try and find ways of maximizing that effect. There's different classes have different ways of doing so. Of course, the sort of method that anyone can do is, if you run Zola, you can Incendious and then Zola and then play another one, and then you've got 2 and you've upgraded them to 3. Now, you do have to have time for that, right? So that could be a challenge. I messed around a little bit with like a priest that's control, and then you can power chord synchronize these. I don't know if like the control tools weren't there, or if we were using too many new expansion cards.
It's also not really the right meta to be trying out a control deck, like when you don't know what you're going to be playing against, and you can't really tailor the control tools to that. Like, if we get a more settled meta, like if we had a meta that, you know, on day 1 that was very focused around like Swarm going wide, like you could run a lot of clears and like little clears, and then start running this at the top end to try to close the game out. We just don't know when you're just playing against the entire range of everything, it's very hard to build a proper control deck that's going to really be able to do it.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe that will just, as you say, need some time to figure out what people are doing. Maybe it's like, oh, there's all these pirates. We run Holy Nova and Hot Coals. Like, you just figure out how to target. But it just felt like I had too many things focused on getting copies, and then, you know, not the right control tools or not enough healing, whatever. But what did feel good after seeing some other people do it was Shaman, because Shutter Block into Incendious gives you such a density of the eruptions themselves that even though they only get upgraded to 2, I mean, 1, you can still have a Zola, right? And so if you want to Shutterblock and then go Insidious Zola, you can do that. But also, spell damage works. So what you can do is you do your Shutterblock Insidious. There's 15 eruptions in your deck, and you can just play Novice Zapper, and that's how you get it up to 3 damage. Or if you have 2 Novice Zappers, right? Any source of spell damage you can use. I didn't have Blood Mage Thalnos in there because of the 10 card restriction, but I would guess you could go basically your spell damages are a pair of Zappers and Blood Mage Thalnos, because not only are those great with the eruptions, but they're great with the Shaman Drink spell, which it is just, you can get 2 damage AoE in a pinch, and if you're on 5 mana with Zapper, 4 damage. A few times where I just went all in for the 6 damage because it's only enemy minions and it does go face. So that felt like it had some real potential. Again, having to figure out what the meta's like, what control tools you're going to want, but being able to have all those eruptions, and then whenever you want to actually kill them, you play spell damage plus Gaslight Gatekeeper and finish them off.
And I mean, even if you don't do that, right? Like, I mean, they're plagues. Right. And
Sure.
when you get 20 plagues into your deck, that's still going to kill you eventually, especially when when the plagues are in your deck, not the opponent's, and you can control how you're going to draw them.
Yeah, exactly. So very excited at that possibility. We'll have to see if maybe there's something as well in Warrior, who of course has Bran, right? So you can, Bran the Incendious and then also Zola for like 2 more copies. Maybe that's unnecessary because Warrior has other terrifying things to potentially do with Druid cards.
It seems a little slow for what Warrior wants to do now.
But Incendious is probably my top, like, okay, what decks can I build around this sort of card?
Yeah, we tried to play an Incendious Control Priest, and it did not go very well.
Oh.
It was like one of the first things that we played, and it was, I think, the second thing that we played. It didn't go very well, but
It went better than the horrible Amalgam Priest or Amalgam Warrior that we were trying to make work, which was like the one game that got specced by the. That was the one game where you were speccing us on the Theorycrafting stream, and it was that horrible Amalgam Warrior that we just wanted to get out of that game, and the person we were playing with was like stalling for 4 turns with clear lethal on board. I don't know if they were trying to be nice to let us try to do the thing, or if they were just like trying to get their deck to to showboat or whatever, but it was just like, please just hit us in the face so we could go play something else.
And the theory, yes, but so it was not the most auspicious start, but that was not the fault of Incendious. I don't think it was just not the right shell for it. And yeah, I don't know that I will be refining it, but when you build it, please share it. And then speaking of decks and sharing, if you keep an eye on the Concede Twitter or on WickedGoods Twitter or my Twitter, MAGESA_8 for me, then we will be posting our usual spreadsheet, I assume, of decks that we find. Also, World 8 usually is helping us out. So we'll be updating that with decks that we find around Twitter or other places that you may not have seen. We don't necessarily vouch for their competitive viability, just that they looked interesting and we found them.
There are definitely some meme decks in there, but we try to cover the gambit. So if you want to destroy your rating, your MMR with trying new things, we're not going to stop you. So we will enable you on that.
And I do poke Edel sometimes to be like, can we share this deck yet? Can we share this deck yet? Because we definitely get people coming into the Discord going, what was that deck that Edel was talking about on the show? So
I'm the worst. I roll up, don't even know what's in the show notes, go through the show. I'm like, yeah, I was playing this crazy thing. And then I just disappear.
Yeah. That's like, what was that? What can you, is that can we have the list? No, just gonna forget about it.
I am trying, listener. I am trying.
Yes.
All right. Well, Wicked, your choice was not on my bingo card for you.
Yeah. Well, so I normally pick a priest card because I'm normally very excited about the priest cards, and then I have the crushing disappointment when the set actually comes out. And this priest set is not really for me. It's much more of a Megasa priest set than it is for me, and the couple cards that we have just didn't feel great in theory crafting. Maybe they'll feel better in live. But I do like to go pew pew. And so and I've been playing, I guess I've been playing enough Rainbow Death Knight to appreciate Horizon's Edge, which is the location for Death Knight. The 4-mana 5 durability, deal 3 damage randomly split among all enemies. After a friendly minion dies, reopen this. Yeah, this is 15 damage every time you play it. It's because like you have ghouls, you can hero power, you've got just like little things that drop other little things that have reborn. Like you can generally kill off 5 things on the turn you play this and just keep spreading the damage around. The one complaint I have about it is that the animation is glacially slow.
It
like,
really is. It's cute. This little cannonball.
Yeah.
But
it's like one cannonball at a time, and the entire cannonball is to finish firing and get to the destination before the next one starts. And it takes forever. But it is very fun. It is a lot of damage, especially if you can just like, if you just need to clear off like 1 or 2 minions and then get the rest to go face, like you can find a way to do that and it will do a lot of damage all in a hurry. And, or you can just like leave it there and then set it up set it up to be able to take advantage of it with something like a crop rotation or even just like trading off the things from mining casualties or hero power or whatever. Like you can get this to go off usually in on one turn by itself.
I'm awaiting the Trollden video where, a priest or someone does some crazy shenanigans, makes a big board on like turn 4, and then the Death Knight just has mining casualties tokens in play, and they play Horizon's Edge, and just like activate, trade in, activate, trade in, just like use all 5 charges that turn, clear the board, and then play a free of that giant that discounts for 2 every time you've activated a location.
Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen is somebody's going to be playing the Druid Legendary and then get 2 of these. And then the one that summons 2 random locations, they're going to get 2 of these and they're just going to like be vomiting all over the board. It's going to be hilarious, but I'm not going to be the one to try that, but I do enjoy the location. It felt a lot better than I was expecting.
Yeah, I am also looking forward to that one. I was expecting you to put like Narain Sooth Fancy or something, because I do think that is a cool card.
It is.
So I played it and it's fine. Right? Yeah. But it's like, I never really felt like it did anything. I mean, it's like...
We also, to be fair, did not play the Reno Priest that you made.
Right. And because I didn't really want to be playing a hard control priest in theory crafting, and half because the codes weren't working and I would have had to enter 30 codes manually, and I have my limits. But yeah, and maybe that'll be the way that it goes, and maybe it'll be better there. But it just felt like every time I played it, it was like a funnel cake. And then it's like, do I really want 2 more of these? And it actually ended up being like too much cognitive load for me to actually like want to deal with it. And yeah, it just, I wasn't blown away by it. So
Vol'jin felt really good though.
Vol'jin did feel pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yes, don't worry. We're that's
we're getting there.
We're getting there. So last time on the mini set for card you can't wait to play with, I said Rocket Hopper, which did not pan out at all. I was like really excited about this shaman thing, and Edel, you said Murloc Grofin, same thing basically.
That one did pan out.
It did have its moment, yeah.
That's true. That one more than Rocket Hopper. And then Wicked, you said Funhouse Mirror.
It was fine.
Yeah. Turned out to be Puppet Theater. Was the
It did turn out to be Puppet Theater, and Puppet Theater will make an ignominious appearance later on in our previous.
All right. So for card that you're scared of, Wicked, why don't you start us off? We mentioned this card.
So I don't want to veer too much from being off-brand, right? So it's a rogue card. It's O Manager, which is, again, we talked about it a bunch. 2-mana spell, deal 2 damage, combo, get a coin. Less so for the Paladin OTK that it enables, though I will acknowledge that is a thing, right? That is really exists. I mean, yes, because of Lanessa, but also because of this card, because this gives you the mana to do everything. And doubling the mana from coins and then getting 2 of them is a lot of the reason that OTK exists.
Mhm.
I'm more worried because we ran into Language Hacker twice playing Wishing Well Rogue. And you get between that and there's also some other things that are giving coins. And I'm more worried, not at launch. I'm worried about 2 months down the line when they've nerfed everything that's broken. And then the power level comes down across the board to the point where Wishing Well Rogue is a thing that you could justifiably play on ladder. And then we're going to see that and I'm going to be sad. And it's going to be at least potentially because of this card. So that's why I'm scared of that.
I mean, I'm scared of it even earlier, honestly. Like the density of coin things you can do, unless they are just getting murdered by pirates all the time, then there's got to be potential for this to just be around. I don't know if they run the weapon that makes coins, but they definitely run O Manager. And even just that with the coin generating things they already have gives sort of enough density that you can basically say, I'm just mulliganing for Wishing Well, and the coins will come.
Yeah. I mean, both times we played against Language Hacker, he had Wishing Well on 5. And both times he had like a board of like a full board of stuff at the end of turn 5.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's certainly plenty of things that are happy when you play cards from other classes in Rogue, and those legendaries are often from other classes. But, I don't even know whether you need those, but it's a possibility. I think I picked Wishing Well Rogue as a card that I thought was underrated, like, back in Badlands. So the silver lining for me, if this ends up being good, will be that I called it sort of way back when.
Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it just doesn't have enough support.
Slow burn.
But that doesn't mean I'm hoping for it. I can see why it's appealing, though, to people, because you get random legendaries. So
I am going to call those decks Karen decks, though. Like, I'm just going to, that's just what they're going to be called now.
Well, in classic fashion, Wicked picks a rogue card for what he's scared of. I pick a druid card for what I'm scared of. Sometimes it's completely unvalidated. This time I think it is. New Heights is a druid card, which Warrior also gets to play, and that has its own sort of scary implications for different reasons, but 3 mana, gain a mana crystal, and increase your maximum mana crystals this game by 3. So you can run 2 of these, which means you can go up to 16. If for some reason you have discovered more, then it can just keep going up. There's no limit, technically, except for like turns of the game and relevancy. But
oh god, Rogue's gonna get these from Tess.
Well, at any rate, it opens up, of course, as max mana always does, and because Druid has other ramp, just lots of combo potential. So if they are not kept in check, Druids could do some really, really filthy things with all this mana. Someone points out the tourist card from Druid into Mage is Mista Vista, who replays everything between when you play him and when the effect happens, and it goes over 3 turns. So if you Mista Vista and then you play your Great Heights, you could increase your max mana crystals from 16 to 22 potentially, right? Back to Guff days. So,
and then you can just play your tsunami, and it didn't even take your turn,
Yeah,
and then you get replayed from Mista Vista.
So, sort of regardless of what they're doing win condition wise, it's gonna be silly having that much mana. Whether it is many Unkiliaxes, just mass taunt spam or spell damage OTK things, it's gonna be spooky. Now, this is a little bit tempered by how powerful the aggro is, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Maybe we'll end up with a healthy rock paper scissors of just like there's hard control to deal with the incredible aggro. There's incredible aggro to deal with the combo stuff, and there's combo stuff to deal with the hard control. We'll see. But 16 mana is really scary.
I mean, the difference between this and Guff is that this is not getting you 5 armor when you play it, and it's not changing your control power to either
But
give you more
it's-
ramp or more draw. But
It's
I'm
just
not
wild
saying
growth.
it's. I know it's. Just, I'm not
It's-
saying it's. I'm not saying that it's terrible. I'm just saying that it's easy to look at this as Guff, and it's not Guff, but it's still very good. I actually am surprised that it's this and not Trail Mix. That was the one that you're more scared of. 'Cause
It's a
that feels
tough
like
call.
the one that's more that's scarier to me than
Yeah, that is going to lead to like turn 6 brands again or whatever. Like Trail Mix is a powerful card. For those who don't know, 2 cost. Basically, you spend the 2 mana that turn and you get it next turn, right? So it's like a scuffed original Innervate. It's very powerful and can lead to crazy stuff early in the game, but yeah, just the scaling over long games is insane for New Heights, and just
And Warrior getting
Yeah.
it.
just the fact that it is, hey, I heard you like wild growth. What if we just added more text that says,
Yeah.
you increase your maximum mana crystals by 3? Like it's crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if, now again, this was theory crafting stuff. We don't know. Maybe Druid won't actually end up being this scary. We will see. But I would not be surprised if at some point this gets nerfed by removing the ramp element, right? By making it something you don't actually want to play on 3, that you just play once it's relevant, once you're going to start getting your crystals above 10, to start letting that happen. Because getting to like do both things that you want to do, ramp on 3 and increase your maximum mana crystals, like Whelp is now a turn 3 ramp card. So there is no ramping before, like turn 3 is the ramp turn.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the fact that Warrior gets this and Warrior has so many things. I mean, I was almost surprised that it wasn't, well, knowing you, I wasn't that surprised, but I almost put down for mine Hydration Station just because of like 3 Unkiliaxes. We saw a lot of that from Warrior, especially.
Yep.
And that was, they could get there faster because of something like New Heights. And the Trail Mix also would help them get their sandwich out early.
Yep.
Or if they didn't have the sandwich, then one of the big taunt, then get the Zilliax out early so that then they can bring back 3 Zilliaxes with the Hydration Station, which is the 8 mana spell that's from Druid, but Warrior can turn us into it, that resurrects your 3 highest cost taunts. So you can run other taunts, it will always hit what you want it to hit. There was also, though, even like Druid, like TikTok posted a Druid that was just like low to the ground spell damage. It didn't even run. It runs Trail Mix, I believe. Yes. It didn't even run Alonius, which I found interesting. It's just like Chia Drake, Magical Dollhouse, go with the flow, and then just like, and Concierge, and then you just have endless Sea Breeze Chalices that are free and doing a ton of damage. And then tide pool people.
That might end up being like the more consistently good one, right? Because you don't have to find Aulonius. It's not going to do the flashy like 60 damage that Aulonius can do, but just saying you got a location set up, you got the mage spell for +1 spell damage, there's the miniature for +1 spell damage. Like you can get 2 or 3 spell damage very easily, and as long as you have Concierge to make the Seabreeze Chalices free and a swipe to clear the path.
And if you've played Mistavista, then it'll just do all those things again if that wasn't lethal.
Sure. Or, play the tide pool thing to get another of the drink with multiple drinks left. Right? Like it's just chalices all the way down.
I mean, I guess the thing is you are doing the flash of lightning thing where you're telling your opponent that you're about to go beat them in the head the next turn. So if they have a Cult Neophyte or they have a Speaker Stomper, they know exactly when to play it. And then you're going to be sitting there flailing for a turn while they get a free turn to effectively, put pressure you to the point where you may not be able to do whatever you were going to do. So that is that is at least something with Trail Mix being next turn as opposed to, I forget what the dual class Druid Shaman ramp 2 crystals was. I've
Lightning
repressed that
Bloom?
memory apparently. Yeah, Lightning Bloom, because Lightning Bloom is the same thing except that you're paying the 2 mana next turn instead of
Right.
getting the mana this turn, and now you're paying this turn to get the mana next turn. But
Yes.
now you're telling
Lightning
your
Bloom is a
opponent what
better
you're going to
card.
do. It turns out.
Yeah, Lightning Bloom is just fiscally irresponsible. You know, we'll play this later. Never mind. Blow
I'll
out
gladly
now.
pay you Tuesday for some hamburgers today. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's spooky. Oh, one last thing on New Heights with increasing maximum mana. Trog Gem Tosser.
Okay.
I
so,
had not thought of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, with Trog Gem Tosser, you have to spend all of that mana exactly to get the finale, right? Which does get more difficult the more mana that you have. I know Druid can do it, but it's like, if you've ever played that Druid deck and just top decked a Gem Tosser when you're on 10 mana, it is not, even if you have stuff in your hand, it's not always easy to get it down to get all the cards in the right order to be able to do that. And with 16, yeah, it's going to be really flashy when it happens, but it's also going to be much more difficult to get the finale off to do.
Maybe, but when you have Thrice, just draw 6 cards. That's what that card is called, by the way. It's just called Thrice. Choose Thrice.
It took me a second to yes, that card is also the Starry Sky. What is it called?
I don't know.
It's
It
called
doesn't
Thrice.
matter.
We just said so. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 mana, choose Thrice. Well, you can gain 5 armor, draw 2 cards, or refresh 3 mana crystals. So technically, you can use it to net gain yourself mana if you're at high mana levels, because if you choose refresh 3 times, you've paid 7 to refresh 9 mana crystals.
So technically, it was an innervate, sort of.
Yeah. It's a very roundabout one
Right.
with lots of clicks.
The slowest innervate ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, the card that I picked for Scared of, we kind of already talked about, so I won't go into much more detail, but it was Dangerous Cliffside, representing, I don't know if that's even the card to pick, but it's the location from Demon Hunter that summons essentially 4 2/2 charge pirates, because you attack in the middle if you're a Demon Hunter. But that's just representing all of the aggro pirate stuff in Demon Hunter and in Shaman. I say card I'm scared of, and I picked an aggro deck. I will probably also play it, but I think it could be quite something, and likely. I was sitting there trying to like place bets. What's going to be the deck that everyone is calling for its head on, hour 8 of the expansion? And I think one of those pirate decks is likely a strong contender. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
There's other contenders.
People are going to
the
get
good
tired
news-
of taking 6 on turn 3.
The good news is that people might finally stop complaining about Reno because nobody's getting to turn 10. So, there's your, that, careful what you wish for. I guess.
The hero we need.
Yeah.
Or perhaps the hero we deserve. I'm not sure. So, all right. In terms of cards that we were scared of last time, Wicked, you picked Return Policy.
Which we have not seen since. So, yeah. That shows what
I was
know.
like, what did Return Policy do? Edel, you picked Snuggle Teddy, which we have also not seen, but it's a druid card. There is time. If you have more mana, then it's better. And I picked Puppet Master Dorian, which, and I think I said at the time, I don't know what's going to break this, but something will break it. And we did see it in the broken deck, although it was not the reason the deck was broken.
It did take something from the following set, because it's technically Marin the Manager that broke it. So it did take the preview card from Perils in Paradise.
Yes. All right. It's always harder to do the superlatives for a mini set too, because you just have so many fewer cards. So, card that you want to be good but isn't. So I picked Surfalipod in Mage specifically, because I think Big Spell Druid might have kind of a different thing going on. But Surfalipod is the 5-drop mage card that makes your next spell cast when drawn. And it's great art. And it just doesn't have great synergy with the big spell stuff as Mage has it now. Maybe at some point, but you can't play Galactic Orb with Cephalopods lest you draw the orb early. So you can't just play the Cephalopod early. You can play Cephalopod and Watercolor Artist to cheat out your Tsunami, but then you had to spend 9 mana to do that. And if it was over 2 turns, you have a chance to have drawn your thing you don't want to draw. And if you have any sort of spell that has a target that maybe would go wrong, Cephalopod does not say at enemies. So that also kind of limits what you can do. And if you don't have something like Galactic Projection Orb and the big spell mage, then how are you recasting these things? What's your payoff? So I don't think Cephalopod is it, but I'm not totally down on the big spells in mage yet.
I mean, that did pretty well for us. The Edelweiss Orb Mage worked actually pretty well.
You just don't run the Cephalopod. Right. Yeah. You just run the orb instead of the Cephalopod. Yeah. And Edel had run a keyboard, and so then you get giant stuff. And you can then run some stuff that's a little bit smaller, because that's fine. You're not banking on every single spell, having to be huge. We weren't running small spells, but Star Power. Totally makes sense. You're clearing the way for your Sunset Volley to go face, and your Tsunamis things to go face. So, I think there is something there. Having Tide Pools for that deck is great because it gives you a lot of early spells to deal with things. So if there's, so much aggression or combos that we can't get to the Galactic Projection Orb, that might be a problem. But I think the answer to Cephalopod as Anner Synergy is just don't play Cephalopod. Which is a shame, because it's kind of a cool card, but...
Rising Waves is so good that not running that seems, insane. I had surprising success towards the end of my trying stuff out with a mage deck that had just one-ofs for the high-end spells, so that you would get your thing that was going to be cast off of Galactic Projection Orb, and that was it. And I really liked that. I'm interested in refining it once I don't need the 10-card restriction. I, in retrospect, feel like it probably would be good to have 2 Sunset Volleys, 2 Tsunamis, because those cards are great.
And you might need 2 Blizzards by that point, too.
Maybe. But one advantage to having the ones was if I draw one thing, then the Paladin card that draws your lowest and your highest, would draw me the next one down the tier. So I can always know that I'm going to have Galactic Projection Orb, and then it'll draw me my Volley, and then it'll draw me my Tsunami. So that was nice, being able to kind of get all those set up. And the way that Galactic Projection Orb works is it casts in ascending order no matter what. And I basically had it so that, my bottom end is going to be whatever I discover. But once you hit 5, it's going to be Star Power, Blizzard, which hopefully clears all their stuff. Maybe you've got Rising Waves, manages to still be at 3. And then once all their stuff is gone, you've got Firelands Portal hitting their face for 6, followed by Tsunami hitting their face for 9, followed by Sunset Volley hitting their face for 10. So the idea is to kill them, or at least do a bunch of damage and make a big board with Galactic Projection Orb.
And you could probably fit Sea Shanty in there too. If all that's not enough, then you still have a couple more minions.
I think Sea Shanty is a different deck, right? Because you have to discount it by targeting stuff, and that is a little bit harder in this deck. And
yeah, a little bit, not too much though.
No, but also it's not what I want to do. I want the orb to kill them most of the time. I want it to be my C&E, where it's yes, it makes a board, but the goal is to just kill you.
Yeah, I mean, it's also redundancy, right? Because if you're only doing one of each, then you have to draw most of the deck in order to find everything. Sometimes, I mean, you're not going to get all those things to go off, so having a little bit of redundancy or other things.
Well, but if you run the Sea Shanty, then Grillmaster isn't guaranteed to tutor your
orb. Yeah, that's true.
Orb. Yeah.
And it's a 50-50.
So yeah, it means that there's nothing in the 10 slot, but I think that's fine because, again, you've got other stuff going on. And I'm just so happy to have Galactic Projection Orb replaying an 8-cost spell that is not Yogg in the Box.
Yes.
Oh, that's what we could be playing.
No, it's really not.
It's always Tsunami.
Every time I play that, I get Wheel of Death. So,
Oh yeah, that's how it works. But it's also specifically somewhere in like the switch statement for that card. It says like if battle tag Wicked Good,
yes,
cast Wheel of Death.
It doesn't even have to be Wheel of Death specifically. It's just flip on the bad RNG setting, and then
this conspiracy theory begins.
I'll be experimenting with that one as well, if I'm not doing insidious Sif things.
All right. Well, Edel, what was the card that you want to be good but isn't?
So I have Line Cook, and this one I have here specifically because I had this deck idea that I think is like really awesome, but there's no way. Like, if Druid is doing 60 damage, this is just not going to work. But the premise was basically a full control warrior where the only minions are a pair of Line Cooks and Ham the Hungry. And you just are like, control, 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 and you've got things to hand buff the Line Cooks so that you can just like trade it. And Line Cook says whenever you draw it, you get a copy. So you basically just always like play the copy and trade it in. And as you're buffing them and trading them, like it'll just, that copy that you're playing is going to be larger and larger. And since you have targeted draw things like the draw 2 taunt minions, right? You can pull them out of the deck that way. You've got Riffs, right? Which draw a minion, buff it +3/+3. So it was really fun to build because it had all these kind of cute synergies, but it felt cute, right? Like, unless you're up against something where you can get a lot of distance out of just controlling them, then it doesn't really work out. And if you're winning that way, it kind of doesn't matter what your win condition is, right? I guess the argument for this is like, well, they're taunts, so they kind of help you protect yourself as well. But you do actually have to run things to buff them, and that takes up some number of card slots. So it ends up being probably just not as good as like Warrior in even necessarily, Odin Warrior in terms of filling that sort of niche of like full control with the minimum card dedication for win condition. So yeah, it was like cool to mess around with, but I kind of realized pretty quickly that was not going to work. Now, maybe it'll see some kind of play in some other sort of more regressive setting, but something that is like just Line Cooks is not going to work out, I don't think.
It was an entertaining game with Day9 and Rarin in that video where Day9 had built not quite the same, but a like my only minion is Line Cook and I'm just buffing it type of scenario. And Rarin was on just like a pure aggressive hunter. And just like at the point where Rarin was going to just destroy Day9, Day9 managed to cajole him into just like giving him enough turns to do the thing.
Yeah. Like this kind of like strikes me like a commander deck where everybody agrees that they're going to play at a certain power level, so everybody gets to do the thing and have a good time. That's not how that works ever. Like, every time that you think you're gonna have a good time with doing something that's like slightly lower powered, it might take a little longer. Like you get blown up immediately. Not how
that's not how ladder works. Yeah, and definitely not how this theory crafting worked, or this expansion is lining up. But again, theory crafting is not the real meta. So we will see. Wicked, the card you want to be good but isn't. I think we will have an interesting discussion about this one.
Yeah. And it's a card that you're probably going to play regardless because it's a tourist. But I was pretty disappointed in how it performed, which is Arana Thrill Seeker, which is the 5 and a 5/6 during your hero. Damage your hero takes on your turn is redirected to a random enemy. We had a few games where we played Demon Hunter and we got this down and it did nothing. It just absolutely did nothing. because by the time that we were at the point in the game where we could play it and be able to do something other than just like press our hero power to attack, there was a big board, and you want all that damage to go face, or you want to clear a big thing, but there's usually like too many things on the board for that to do anything. And so like there was one game where we had like 7 mana, we went like Arana, acupuncture, and like tickled a couple of taunts that were in front of us, and then we died. And that's kind of the problem that I have with it, is that because it costs 5 and then you need to have other things to do after that, like if you are able to get that damage through, you probably didn't need that effect to win. Now again, I'm not saying this is a bad card, because you're going to play it for the tourist ability.
Yeah.
And like the rest of the text on the card probably doesn't matter, but I think that the experience of playing this card and expecting it to do anything other than enable you to put priest cards in your deck is going to be disappointing.
I mean, I will say, I tuned into John Bay's stream yesterday long enough to watch him do like at least 60 damage in fatigue, because she does block fatigue damage.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how consistent this is, but he had gotten an early Glaive Tar and then just held it. And then every draw spell that you can put in Demon Hunter, which is obviously a lot of draw spells, or draw cards in general, and then played Arana, swung face, and played other draw things, and it was just like absurd. You know, they had a board, it didn't matter because the amount, you know, it went like 10, 11 cards in fatigue.
Right.
And so I think there are situations where you can build an Arana deck, but yeah, she wasn't necessarily, in general, the self-damage package, maybe we just didn't see how to put it together, but yeah, she's not
felt unnecessary almost, like in the decks that we were playing, and maybe that's the point, is that we weren't playing the right decks. But like I will have 2 counterpoints to what you just put out there, which is, 1, it was a Theorycrafting meta where people are trying slower things, and
True.
2, it's Chambray.
True.
Okay, but hear me out. Banterface played that deck too, and won without even needing to do the fatigue stuff, right? Like just one.
Right, but that's the point, right?
Damage.
Is that you don't need the fatigue. You just get them.
Well,
right? So
but it's there, right? Like it was still in the deck, that potential. So I could see a world where like you've got this sort of aggressive stuff, but then can kill them with a held Glaive Tar when you need it.
I mean, you'll kill a warrior once in a while where you wouldn't have otherwise, right? But I mean, you're probably not going to need that damage to, like, if you're doing that much damage, and also if you're able to swing face, by the way, then you're already ahead of the game, because that means that there's not a gigantic taunt in the way of you to be able to, like.
I mean, you can hit the taunt; it doesn't matter as long as it doesn't literally kill you. Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it doesn't matter, right? Because Arana redirects it. That's even better for you.
Well, I mean, if it's like a beached whale, it matters, right? Because then you're only taking 4, and you're
sure.
No, she takes the full. Yeah. Okay. But
yeah.
I mean, when I say giant taunt, I'm referring specifically to the butt of the taunt.
Oh, you're not saying like the 27 cleave rush amalgams that some people were doing?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like a beached whale or something like that, where it's got like a ton of health, and or like even like Insidious. Does Insidious have taunt? I don't remember.
It does not.
I don't think. No, it doesn't have taunt, because but you know, something like that where it's just like a giant butt, and or like, you know, sometimes you give, you know, where you give taunt to like one of these really defensively statted things, right? Like,
I think what I would say is I would agree with you that the circumstance of I play Arana and double acupuncture so I can hit you for 16 instead of 8 is not going to come up as often as you think, right? Because they'll potentially have minions in play. But I think majority of the time it's going to be like you have Arana and double brain masseuse, double acupuncture, maybe hot coals and end of list, right? For some kind of aggressive demon hunter. And like that's good enough. If they happen to have an empty board and you get to do the Arana acupuncture, great. Or you know, maybe Arana use your face to clear something, and because you cleared it, the rest goes face. Like those circumstances may arise. But yeah, that particular circumstance that felt like, oh, this is easy, of Arana double acupuncture probably is going to happen less often than people think.
Like,
Yeah.
if you're building specifically for the fatigue win con, I can see it. I mean, again, it's and the self damage package was kind of like, do you even need it for what you're doing, or do you just put more just like Demon Hunter cards in and just get them, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's going to be a question too.
That's true. Yeah, is this what Demon Hunter most wants to be doing? I think she's a more niche card than we thought that she would be, is probably true.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so last time, card you want to be good but isn't. I said pro gamer. I don't think that was a hot take by any stretch. Edel, you said replicator innator.
yeah.
Yep. And Wicked, you said puppet theater, and unfortunately, we're proven wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's played and it's fine.
Okay. It's played and it's infuriating.
It's infuriating when I mean it's probably one of the better. I mean, you're putting in an ETC and playing it in the Reno deck, so it's probably pretty good. Yeah. The rest of my stuff was better, but yeah, that was a clear miss. But yeah, we can talk about happier things, because I don't think that there's any disagreement on this after our experience with it, which is the cards that we think are over underrated. I not only said under, I said way under, which is Sandcastle, because this card is bananas.
Holy smokes.
And it's like it does so much in a turn, and like even if it takes a turn off, it's fine, right? Because like you're attacking into it is Remornia, but also it's buffing your minions instead of giving you a weapon swing.
And it's safer than Remornia.
Yeah.
Because
you don't have to run your face into anything.
Well, and because Viper can't hit it, right? Like Remornia was in play or equipped and, you know, was vulnerable in both of those circumstances because Viper. But this one, I don't think we're really going to see Demolition Expert happening. Like, yeah, they're bringing it back into core. I don't see...
I guess if this is good enough, you might, but yeah, it's...
Maybe?
I mean, it's Demolition, Renovator, it's Twisting Nether, and it's Reno. Those are the ways you deal with it.
Right. And a lot of times, they're going to be buffing it up either on board with sunscreens and other things, or with hand buff stuff, which we didn't see too much of because of the 10 card requirement. But if you attack with the weapon...
Or Crusader Aura.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So just the fact that it's deceptive when you look at it in the collection, because you go, oh, well, the location's going to give +3 attack and rush. That's nice. Yeah. No, the location gives plus this thing's attack and rush. So
even 3 is good.
Even 3 is good. So you're just going to be giving things an insane amount of charge attack damage, right? Because you're going to use it on something that can already attack, and then get the rush minion, use that to like clear a taunt, and then it's sitting safely as a location again, you know, not to be dealt with.
And then after that first turn, it gets to go face.
Yeah. You do have to wait for the location to open up. It doesn't open up early, you can use it right away when it first goes into location. When it goes into location again, it's not like you can just keep using the location endlessly. But even so, it's still insane.
But even then, right? Like even just like having it rush out, turning into a location, even if you don't use that right away, you could just let it sit there for a turn. Mm-hmm. Know that you're going to have a minion that's of reasonable size that will be able to go face immediately, that can't be removed easily, and then buff it the following turn, and then go face with like an outfit tailor or something, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to use the location right away. You could rush into something, let it turn into a location, and just let it sit there, and then next turn, throw both outfit tailors on it and send it face. And then it turns into a location. You get to buff something else that also gets to go face if it has charge.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine this increasing the early outfit tailor usage, because you're basically just maintaining the damage, right? Like you put the outfit tailor on it and you're like, yeah, I'm still gonna get to use that extra damage from outfit tailor on a charge minion later. I just have to be careful not to let the sandcastle be exposed.
I don't know that I have anything to add except for the card felt really good to play. So,
yeah.
And I think in lots of different kinds of paladin decks, right? So
and like surprisingly good to play. Like we put it in on like a lark, like, oh, this is fun. Let's try this. And it's like, holy crap, this card. Like when we played the card, we just won. Like it was just like, it did so much work.
all right. Well, Edel, what have you picked for? You actually have an under and over here.
Yeah, the over I touched on earlier. We don't have an image for it. I forget what it's called, but the weapon that makes coins in Rogue. It's 3 mana 2/2.
Metal detector.
Terrible stats. I don't know, playing with it a little bit. Yeah, sometimes there's small things you can hit. It's very slow. Like, yes, it generates coins, but
And you have to kill the minion.
Exactly.
You have to have a target. Yeah.
So a lot of times you're gonna have to have some other source of damage to get a minion down to being able to be killed with this weapon. It's just, maybe I'll be wrong on that, but something I do like. I don't know if we'll end up seeing it, but this has such potential to me. The Swarthy Sword Shiner, 3 mana 3/3. Your weapon becomes 3/3. I forget exactly how it's worded, but
The attack and durability of your weapon to 3.
right. So you're rogue, you dagger up on 2, you attack with it, or you play quick pick, whatever. It goes down to 1/1. You play this on 3. It's now 3/3. That is powerful. Like, that is just a lot of tempo, a lot of damage, right? With just no investment if you're rogue. If you're paladin, I don't know if you do this, but there's a real possibility of you run one of these to set your Painter's Virtue to 3/3 after you get it down to 1 durability. So you can just keep buffing. Like, instead of running, like I had been, either Ignis so you could get a weapon, or the Whack-A-Mole so you could have weapon but still be able to instrument tech targeted draw the Painter's Virtue. If you can just be like, and now I set it to 3/3 and we keep the party going, that could be pretty powerful. But yeah, just, it's a pirate as well. So if there's any kind of pirate rogue, I imagine you run this, because often the case for aggressive rogue decks is you're daggering on 2, and turning that dagger into a 3/3 weapon is really good.
Or even if you're just playing like the Sonya rogue with the Valyris Gifts, right? And you just want to get a weapon that has 3 durability.
Yeah.
Right? Then like that's fine, right? Like that's, you play it out. You don't have to spend the mana to redagger to get a fresh dagger. You can just like use a 1 durability dagger, put this on it, and then start making Valyris Gifts and start throwing deadly poisons on it. Like, I mean, I don't know that that's the best way to use this, but it's a use case.
It can go in any rogue, right? Like, there's no investment for getting a 3/3 dagger on 3, other than knowing that you're going to want to dagger up on 2. So even the thief rogues or X-Fate rogues that people like playing, you could just run this because it's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of Sword Eater in a way, right? Assuming that you have like, you have a dagger whenever, right? That it's kind of, it's giving you a pirate with a reasonable body, and then it's giving you a 3 attack weapon.
Yeah, that's 9 damage that you can send into minions, you can send face. It's not all in one turn, but even thief rogues want tempo. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, the card that I picked as underrated, which I said that we'll come back to this, was Chillin' Vol'jin as a card in its own right, not just a tourist. I mean, I think we knew, right? This card is going to get played because it's the Hunter tourist, and there's a cool Hunter set and all that, like 1-cost synergy with Priest. So we're playing it anyway. But like, I was impressed with this card just like as a card in all kinds of Priest decks. Like, there's just so this one, the effect is that it's a 3 mana 3/3, I believe, that swaps the stats of 2 minions, and those can be any 2 minions. So they could be your own 2 minions, opponents, yours and an opponent's. So it's very flexible, and you can use it essentially as like charge damage, or like attack with something, then put that stats onto something else. You can use it to neutralize something that they have. You can just take one of your little 1-drop things and even, and switch it with like anything else because you're a Hunter tourist priest. So you probably have some little something somewhere. So it was just flexible. Like, it doesn't have like a clear, like, oh, this is exactly the synergy with this card. It was almost like the opposite of Arana, where she seems more specific than we thought she would be. Chill and Vol'jin is just felt solid. And it's only 3 mana, so like you can weave it in.
Yeah, Chillin' Vol'jin was one of the tourists that I felt like you could just play without any of the cards that are in the other class. You could just be like, yeah, this is a good card. I don't really want any of the hunter cards. I don't know if that deck exists that would want to do that, but it's possible because it's just that good.
So, of course, my brain goes to Zarimi, but if we're doing any Hunter Tourist things with it, I feel like what I would be doing with it is on the Zarimi turn, you like draw the Drifter on the turn that you didn't want to draw it. So you just like Chill and Vol'jin your 1/2 and from your Drifter, and then you send that damage face. Like, there's just so many. Or if you're a Control Priest, like we used it, it does in Hearthstone, you should get rid of their tempo while developing tempo of your own. And like, it does that. If they have a big minion, then just like, no, you don't, so.
That's my big minion. Yeah. Like, I'm old enough to remember when we played Twilight Acolyte in Control Priest, which it was a 3 mana 2/4. And if you were holding a dragon, it swapped that minion's attack with other minions and just effectively neutralized it. And this is kind of the same thing. You have to have a minion on board to do that. But, it's not hard to have, like, we have enough janky 1-drops in Control Priests that you can do that. Like, you run Crimson Clergies, you run the 1/2 that steals a card from your opponent's library or deck, rather. You have enough, like, just like little guys that you don't care about that you can all of a sudden turn into a big thing and neutralize their minion. And we've used it to pretty good effect.
Can you swap his own stats with something?
I don't think so, because it's not on the board yet.
Okay, because it's not on the board. Because it's a battle cry. That makes sense.
Because you're targeting from your hand, right? So, like, there's nothing to target for him because he's not on the board yet.
Well, as long as you've got something, which you probably do, then it still works. All right. Well, the cards that we picked last time, Wicked, you said Malfunction, underrated. That was definitely a good card. Edel, you said Safety Expert, underrated.
Nope.
Nope. We did play, of course, an Enzo special where it wasn't Safety Expert, though. It was Testing Dummy. And we did have a couple good games where we like did the Boom Wrench Testing Dummy thing where you deal like 16 damage to their face on the turn that you play it because you have a Boom Wrench, and then you replace it with the mini, and then you attack with the mini, and that breaks it. And what Boom Wrench does is trigger a Death Rattle of a minion on the board, and Testing Dummy's Death Rattle is that it does 8 pings. I'm saying this because you probably don't remember, listener, if you're not Enzo. And there were like ways to cheat that out, and you could like sandwich them and stuff like that. But I don't know that that's better than like the just sort of get a bunch of Ziliaxes and or have a Draconic Delicacy in there, because that thing just never dies. So
yeah, if you were concerned about Unkiliacs before, get ready to see a lot more of them.
Yeah, and I mean, you're just not playing Safety Extra because it costs more than Unkiliacs.
Yeah,
the reason, and you want, and it resurrects your Hydration Station resurrects your 3 highest cost haunts. So you want 3 Unkiliaxes rather than 2 Unkiliaxes.
Well, Safety Expert doesn't have taunt, so.
Oh right, no. Oh, the 10 drop doesn't have taunt.
Nope, it has.
No,
rush.
it's just the testing dummy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah. Well, then you can't even resurrect it at all. Who cares?
I mean, there's Boom, but yeah.
Well, and I had picked last time as underrated Overgrown Beanstalk, which I don't know if that was not good or just very few people tried any Treant Druid to find out. And then I said, or else Flickering Lightbot under, which I still believe we were playing Flickering Lightbot in the like Divine Brew Paladin.
Yeah, it was fine.
Its time could have come. All right. Finally, card you don't understand. So I picked Cruise Captain Laura. We talked about this when she was announced, so I won't go into too much, but Cruise Captain Laura was the Druid legendary that 7 mana 4/5 battle cry summon 2 random locations, and she's a pirate. And like, I do think something like the travel agent, which is discover a location, like there's enough good locations that if you have like a seaside giant or something, maybe you play that. But Laura, like, there just doesn't seem to be enough payoff for the fact that like you could get some really good locations, or you could get stuff that just does not synergize with your deck at all. You know, like you could get prison, or you could get even like tide pools would be good, but you could also get the warrior location that pings 1 damage,
Sanguine Depths.
Sanguine Depths, or what would be like something that just
or the other location in Warrior, the Warrior Demon Hunter run, right? Crimson Expanse.
Yeah.
Terrible. So
yeah. I mean, and even like the good ones, like you kind of have to build around them to take advantage of them. Like if you get Horizon's Edge off of that in a druid, that's going to be incredibly slow, right? Because you're not killing off your minions that quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you also could get Mosh Pit, which is just like God almighty.
which is just not doing anything. Fan Club is not
like,
helping much.
Yeah. I mean, even like Dangerous Cliffside could be okay because you can attack with your hero as a druid, but still, it's like that's not really what you're looking to do at that point in the game at 7 mana. Like getting 4 1/1 pirates with charge without any way to buff them up is just kind of like whatever, as opposed to in the Demon Hunter where you're planning for that and you're playing the pirates that buff them, right?
Right.
So it's just a very different power level, and just getting 2 random locations. And also like, well, you could get Prison of Yaxaron. You could just go play Prison of Yaxaron.
And it would cost
actually, wait, does it say class locations? Locations from other classes?
It just says 2 random locations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So,
random. You don't discover. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
so
so bad.
You could just play Prison of Yaxaron, and then you don't need to worry about whether you're going to high roll it. You just get it, and you're fine.
And it's also
and
7
it'll probably
mana.
summon a minion for you along the way. Like,
yeah. It's so bad. I do understand, though, because the rest of the druid set is just absurd.
I just needed something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Edel, what did you pick for card that you don't understand?
So I picked Buttons, which is also sort of a stand-in for Spell School Shaman package in general. Oh, but Buttons is a Death Knight card, you may ask. Yeah, but it's the Death Knight tourist into Shaman. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing you want out of Shaman. Maybe Malted Magma, maybe the Cabaret Legendary, maybe. But Malted Magma is much worse without spell damage, which is not exactly Death Knight's forte. And the other spell school stuff that you get access to is just kind of Like the one nature spell you get access to is the one from this expansion that is 3 cost, discover, and or is it discover or just get? a Naga and a spell.
I think it's just get.
Yeah, a Naga and a spell. I think maybe a spell that guaranteed as a spell school, but maybe not even.
Just a random Naga and a random spell. They cost 1 less.
Great. So like maybe that gives you more spell schools beyond the nature, but it's just like weird. I think that card is a victim of like trying to fit in too many ways, right? Of like, okay, it's spell school, but maybe wait, no, this doesn't even work. I was going to say Demon Hunter into Shaman, but no, Shaman goes into Demon Hunter. It was like they're trying to fit with the Naga package of Demon Hunter, but it doesn't even go that direction. So it's just strange, right? There's Naga things happening in Shaman, but nothing actually cares about Nagas. It's just they happen to be doing the spell school things. It's more thematic than anything else. And the only like maybe relevant thing of the spell school package is the big payoff. It's 7-drop that you summon a random 5-cost minion for each spell school, for each different spell school you've played, right? So it's like a shaman-y version of the what is it, Elemental Inspiration in Mage
Yeah.
that summons
Yeah.
4 or 5 with random bonus effects. It's basically that, but instead of 4 or 5's random bonus effects, you get random 5 drops. It's a good board in a box. It's powerful, but you get 2, and that's it. And I just don't know that that's enough worth building around.
Well, I mean, you also have Frost and Shadow in Death Knight.
Yeah, but so Buttons is the other tourist that I feel like is just, yeah, it's 5 mana, draw 2 cards, okay. Like,
I mean, you get a Corpsicle in your hand, right? So that's
yeah, I
that's
guess.
something. That's a pretty good card. He's
Yeah.
adorable.
He is adorable.
That is
we
true.
could get stuff in the mini set too. So
That's true. Oh god, the mini set with Taurus is going to be crazy too.
God. Yeah, that's going to be insane. It's going to feel like getting a whole lot more cards.
yeah, it sure is.
Have we confirmed that it's going to work that way?
No,
Okay.
we can just speculate wildly and irresponsibly.
They do say Perils in Paradise cards, and the mini sets have always still been considered part of.
Who knows? Maybe they'll have them tour into a different class. Who knows?
Oh,
what's gonna happen.
God.
Oh god, that would be there's a limit. There's a limit to how much complication we can have here.
Or maybe they'll just take pity on Death Knight and give them a second tourist.
Maybe.
I would be highly surprised because it would be confusing if they didn't count, right? Because they are still technically mini set cards are still technically the same
Yeah.
expansion.
Yeah. But I don't think they're going to do a whole new round of tourists because that would mean giving everyone a legendary.
That's too many legendaries.
Yeah.
That is too many legendaries in the mini set, yeah. All right, well, we have one final card, which is Wicked, the card that you do not understand.
Announce Darkness. Still don't understand it. Didn't see it at all through Theorycrafting.
Oh, I did. We did.
Oh, did you? Was
Yeah.
it bad?
It was bad. Yeah.
So, and in case you forgot, it's a 2-mana shadow spell for Warlock. Replace your hero power and non-Warlock card with Warlock ones. They cost 1 less. And my initial thought with this was, well, okay, so Rogue's touring into Warlock, so maybe this is for them. But no, you lose all the Rogue cards,
Uh-huh.
which are all the payoffs for playing cards from other classes. So why would you do this? We haven't gotten an answer. I mean, this is very thematic because Renounce Darkness is the card that this is calling back to. And that is a card that I got in, I believe that was Whispers of the Old Gods. I did not get very much worth playing in Whispers of the Old Gods, so I tried to make this work and did not succeed. And this seems just about as bad. So, but I don't see a reason you'd want to play this other than we want to nerf Yogg effects more and screw you over more. And maybe that's reason enough. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll take anything that nerfs Yogg effects, but it's real bad. Some people are still going to build around it because, I mean, people played Renounce Darkness, right? It's a funny, goofy effect. But
I figured it out. Azurite Scorpion's going to get this sometimes. My favorite card of the set.
The problem is you won't know that your opponent got it.
We need a new category. Cards I can't wait for rogues to have to play with.
All right, well, last time for Card You Don't Understand, I picked Wave of Nostalgia and wrote, I mean, I do get it, but also I don't get it.
That one might get better.
It might get better. I was seeing Wave of Nostalgia decks floating around. Edel, you picked Dark Moon Magician, which is the one that recasts a higher cost spell. Or casts a random higher cost spell, I should say, after you cast a spell.
I do like that off of off of Spot the Difference. I take that fairly often. Or and that does okay, generally. It's just a little bit of extra value, but I wouldn't put it in my deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Wicked, you picked Whack-A-Null, which I think is...
We figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Edel did, at least.
Yeah. I still don't run it in those Paladin decks, but I respect that Edel does, so.
Weapons with +1/+1 are decent.
Yeah. They're better when they're Quartzite Crusher, though.
Yeah. Valinier's still nice.
All right, well, that will do it for our card superlatives.
So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out the thanks section of the website at Concede.com. You can also find a contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/Concede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com, join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, and if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Coin Concedes?
Well, I think I'll coin concede on behalf of all three of us to the Play Hearthstone team or the Hearthstone community team for including us in Theorycrafting and our various roles. Because I mean, it is something that I don't think we take for granted, and it's still an honor and a privilege to get to do it every time. So we really do appreciate getting this opportunity, getting to try out the cards, and not just have to theorize about them, but actually get a little bit of experience and give you that experience to draw off of, even if it's in a different meta. I'm also going to Concede Suebe, who was selected yesterday as one of the 1,000 Dream Fund's Broadcast Her Academy Fellows, which is a huge, big deal. I mean, and she's been working her butt off, just being a positive force in the Hearthstone community and as a streamer, and just seeing her recognized for that is amazing. I mean, she's a wonderful person. She deserves all the accolades she can get, and really couldn't be happier for her.
Absolutely. I'm going to concede to my co-casters, of course, Lorinda, Sottle, Raven. Always a pleasure. I have the most fun doing the theory casting events because I'm just in my element in multiple ways. I'm getting to cast Hearthstone and getting to just talk about new cards and wacky decks. And I think I'm the most like deck builder minded of the casting crew that usually does these. So I sort of get to, I don't know if I would say be expert, but like be the go-to person on like what are the crazy ideas and new cards and weird interactions and stuff, since they're a little bit more like, play a good deck a bunch. And yeah, I just always have a ball with all of them. So I concede to the three of them.
Well, I will coin concede. First of all, I should have said this last week, but I don't think I did, to Jared Pullett for the coin concede on ladder the other day. I appreciate that. I never expect it, but I always appreciate it. And also, coin concede too, there was quite a few new content creators in Theorycrafting this time. I know like from, for example, Tito Santana was in it. Tyler Knife, one of our producers, was also in it. So just that's really cool to be seeing more people coming into that. And it's definitely really fun. I almost said I couldn't check out more people's streams because we were streaming. It's the best reason not to be able to check out the stream. And of course there were VODs. But still, I was like, oh yeah, there's lots of people to watch. Also, coin concede to Storm Rage from Blizzlet, whose dog Tolly has been ill and apparently is doing much better, but has a really impressive cocktail of medications. I see 6 in this photo, which is, I'm sure, very pricey. So I wish the best for Storm Rage and for Tolly. I definitely know to some extent what that is like. And also, finally, most importantly, coin concede to everybody in the community for making this a really fun year. First year at Coin Concede. I have just, it's been a big part of my life and absolutely worth it. So thank you to my co-hosts, especially to all the listeners and just everyone else for being really welcoming. I was very nervous. I knew that like no one was expecting me to be Hat because no one can be Hat. I'm going to be my own person and bring my own things. But I was definitely anxious stepping up in that gap. And I just felt really welcomed by everybody in the community, and it's only gotten more natural over time. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
And thank you for being good at this.
Yes. we needed it. Yeah, we've done a lot of sort of splitting the load. Obviously, Hat did a lot on the show. And so it's taking time for us to kind of figure out the new distribution. And yeah, I feel confident that like, maybe if a few years or whatever, if I move on to something else, that podcast will still be in good hands. So it's
But we're not going
been
anywhere,
awesome.
right? We're definitely not going anywhere right away.
Definitely not.
Nobody's talking about that. We're not even thinking about it.
Leah's not even made it to a year herself. So maybe once she's in school.
But that's going to do it for us for this week. So enjoy the new expansion. We will talk to you after the expansion is live, and then we will see what the meta looks like. But until then, keep calm and wear your sunscreen. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede.
Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.